Good evening to you. I'm meteorologist Dan Skeldon. You're watching Tidal Flooding Talk. We are live here at the Irish Pub. Paul McCarty enjoying a well-deserved week off. She's actually up in my native Boston. We're joined this week, our guest, Tyler Ardon. Tyler, appreciate you being here.
Nice to meet you, Dan.
Nice to meet
Thank
you
you
too.
for having me.
Certified Floodplain Manager.
Yes, sir.
And licensed insurance broker. I mean, I guess those are your official title. I guess Vice President is the most impressive one.
That is.
I
So
guess,
use that one.
Use that one? All right. So a VP, Tyler Ardon, is joining us. I guess the first question is, since Palmer normally asks it, is tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, and what you do.
Yeah. So, like you said, Dan, I'm certified floodplain manager. I'm also a licensed insurance broker. Started with Smart Vent, Foundation Flood Vent. It's an engineered flood opening. I'm sure we'll get into that in a little bit. But started with them about 6 years ago. Got into the whole flood world. Became a certified floodplain manager. Passed the exam and everything. About 4 years ago, we started our own insurance brokerage. So I went out, got licensed, and the reason for that was we really studied the National Flood Insurance Program. One, to be able to really sell the Smart Vent flood vents, but also for our own understanding. I became a licensed insurance broker about 4 years ago, and now we're a full-fledged brokerage. Have about 7 to 10 on staff. And we specialize in flood insurance.
Do you have an area you specialize? Is it New Jersey, or is it something a little more national or regional?
Yeah, so I mean, the majority of my business is New Jersey, down the coast, just because I'm here every day. I'm right outside of Gloucester County, actually. Okay. Majority is down the New Jersey coastline, but I also do nationwide. Okay. So I was in Indiana about a month ago. I'll be in Charleston, South Carolina next week. On Thursday, they're doing a flood expo. And I travel the country for different shows, different national flood conferences. I was there in DC about 3 months ago at the NFIP conference, so really nationwide.
So this all started with like a business in smart vents.
Yeah.
Flood vents is something we've talked a little bit about in previous shows. Tell us a little bit about what a flood vent is.
Sure.
Why shore homeowners should have them.
Yeah.
And how they can, I guess, save property and save money for coastal residents.
Right, and Dan, that's the biggest thing, is really saving money off the flood insurance, but also protecting that home. So the goal of a flood vent, and Smart Vent, just to go back, it's an engineered opening. It's designed, tested, and certified to be a flood vent. So FEMA allows two different types of openings. One would be a non-engineered, and I like to break that word down. So non-engineered means it's not designed. So it's not designed to be a flood opening. So that would be like an air vent, temperature-controlled louver vent, something like that. And now not all of them qualify as actual flood vents, and that's something I can get into more, off the show. But the other option is engineered openings, like our Smart Vent. And the goal of that is to, without human intervention, so if a flood comes, FEMA wants it so that that water just flows through the enclosure. They don't want the air vents to be shut or closed or anything, because they want to rely on a human going outside and opening all the vents before the flood. One, because that could be dangerous, and two, they may not do that. But the ultimate goal of the flood vent is, once that water rises, it relieves the hydrostatic pressure that the floodwaters bring, and it does that by letting the water flow through an enclosure or a crawl space. So normally along the New Jersey coastline, you'll see homes that are built up on garages, and that's where you're going to see our vents or flood vents in general. When the water rises to a certain point, the vents will kick open, allow that water to pass through, and any debris or anything that's going to get in the way will also flow through, because you want to make sure that that doesn't get clogged up or impede the flow.
Now let's say a homeowner, a coastal home, doesn't have any flood vents right now.
Sure.
What is the cost as far as, all right, you want to make this home, flood vent certified? I know that's not probably such a thing. But
yeah.
Let's say have an adequate number of flood vents.
Sure.
To provide, number one, hopefully property relief when flooding comes, and number two, insurance benefits. So what is the cost of a homeowner, to get flood vents, and then what is the cost they can save off an insurance premium?
Yeah, so new construction, no requirement. So they're going to be in all new construction homes, so that's not even really a question. But on your pre-firm homes or older homes, meaning the home was built before the flood insurance rate maps were in effect, so really this area, most of the country, you're looking at pre-1975. So any of them homes, they weren't really built to flood standards, so they may be built on a crawl space, but they have no flood openings, like you said. So by installing flood openings, on average, we're able to save homeowners 83% off their flood insurance.
Wow, okay.
The reason for that, and now at Risk Reduction Plus, our insurance agency, we underwrite all of the policies that we look at. With our carrier, there's only 1 of 6 agencies that do that in the country. The reason we do that is because we're allowed to get really in the nuts and bolts of the flood insurance premiums and see why these vents are held up. So if the home does not have flood openings and say they are built on the crawl space, then from a rating standpoint, you rate them at that ground floor, the bottom of the crawl space floor. And that's how the flood insurance rates are mirrored off of. So they go from the BFE, which is your base flood elevation level. So say in this area it may be 8. And say your bottom floor is at 6. Well, now you're a -2 because you're 2 feet below the base flood elevation level. And you're paying a much higher flood insurance premium for that. So a -2, you might be paying around $2,500 to $3,000 a year. By installing flood vents, it then exempts that space because you're letting the water flow through. Essentially, it's non-existent anymore. And now you're rating them off the next higher floor, which typically is the living floor, and usually it's above that BFE mark, or at it at least. So say you were, to go back to that -2 example, you're paying $2,500, you install the flood vents, you're now at a 0, well now you're paying $1,200. So right there, you're saving about $2,000. Typically, the vents cost around $200 a piece.
And what will be the standard number of vents that would go in a home?
Right, so each vent covers 200 square feet of enclosed space. So on a typical crawl space, you're looking at around 1,200 square feet, because what you're measuring is the perimeter of the building. Right. So on a 1,200, say, square feet average home, you're going to need 6 vents, and the retrofit cost will be around probably $1,500 to $2,000. Okay. And like I said, on that -2 to 0 case, you're already making your money back that first year. On average, our return on investment for the homeowners that we do look at are under a year and a half.
That's great. Okay.
And then everything.
So really kind of, I don't say a no-brainer, but absolutely, the initial cost is definitely worth the reward.
100%. And like I said, on average, we're saving people over 83% on their flood insurance.
And you kind of start with the smart vet, and now you kind of cover the whole, everything that comes with flooding. I know you work with communities that are both in the CRS rating system and without.
That's true.
Is there a difference? Is in what you do, in working in a community that is within that system versus a community that's not?
Yeah, I definitely think there is a difference, and that difference is on a community that's in the CRS, so like your Sea Isle, a lot of your towns down here in the CRS program, they're really up to speed on all this stuff, especially after Hurricane Sandy. All the code officials, everyone that's working on the floodplain management for them areas that are in the CRS program are, like I said, up to speed on the mitigation. They know how to build properly in the floodplain. They enforce codes that go above and beyond what the National Flood Insurance Program requires for that area. And then now when I'm going to a town that says not in the CRS, for example, when I went to Indiana, them towns were not in the CRS program. And there's just, I guess we want to call it a lack of knowledge in them towns where they may not have the support from either the town or they do not have the support from, say, the code enforcement department on floodplain management. Whether that's because the town doesn't have enough resources for that department, or just no one's really paying attention to it because it's not a coastal community like down the shore here. But yeah, there is definitely a difference, and that's why we, or myself and as well as my company, travel across the country to inform these towns, do education. Like in Indiana, I did a 4-hour presentation to their code enforcement, to their surveyors, just so that they're on the same level as these CRS towns are.
And I mean, that's one good thing that came out of Sandy, if you want to call it a good thing, is it kind of woke New Jersey up to, hey, major flooding can happen here, hey, we're not immune.
100%.
Katrina happens in the Gulf, Florida's a hurricane magnet. We hadn't had a benchmark measuring storm like that kind of woke us up. And
yes.
I think we probably, I don't want to say we're atop the list as far as knowledgeable on flooding. But
to be honest, and I'm not partial, not to cut you off.
Right. No, not at all.
But,
especially we got to compliment New Jersey and the
exactly.
floodplain managers and the emergency managers.
Exactly. And like I said, I travel the country multiple times a year, 6 to however many times a year. And to be honest, and this is not me being partial to New Jersey, but in my works, New Jersey, even compared to states like Florida and stuff, we really are up to date on everything flood-wise. We're really on the cutting edge of mitigation, making sure homes are building resilient, as well as rebuilding after Sandy. They made sure it was done properly. All the code enforcement that was involved.
And we kind of have to be with the density of our population and the frequency in which we flood. I mean, we may not get as many hurricanes as Florida or Texas or Louisiana. Right. When you consider nor'easters and hurricanes, it's a year-round threat, which we always talk about. So we kind of have to be knowledgeable, or else our shore life will be jeopardized.
Exactly.
No one will want to build or be able to build to be sure.
Right. Right.
Something else interesting. I know you helped initiate or come up with. You want to talk a little bit about the flood risk evaluating process.
Yeah, sure.
Is this something that you're partially behind, or maybe altogether behind?
Yep.
Tell us a little bit about what that is and what it does.
Yeah, so our flood risk evaluator, we've really always done that. Since I started 6 years ago, I was writing them on paper. Now, if you saw the reports, they're great. They're full-fledged reports with the homeowners' information, everything. But like I said, when I started, I was just writing them up on an email and sending it over. And what it is it's a patented program that we review someone's elevation certificate and tell them what they need to do mitigation-wise to lower the flood insurance. So like I said, we've done it since really the start of Smart Vent, because, let's be honest, if someone's going to install Smart Vents, one of the main reasons is because they're going to save money on the flood insurance. So we had to show a way to do this, and that's where the FRE really started. So like I said, when I started, it was just writing them on paper. Now we got a full report. It'll have the homeowner's information on it. Then it will have the exact steps needed to be taken to lower that flood insurance. And that could be installing flood vents. It could be grade changes. And whatever it is, we're going to recommend it. So it's not just like, they don't need vents, so we're not going to do a report. Whatever the case is, whether it's a lift, worst case scenario, it's a lift, we still will recommend that. And then at the top, we put a before premium to show what they should be currently paying when they're flood insurance. And that's important because a lot of people hear that the NFIP is regulated, their rates are regulated, which is 100% accurate. The National Flood Insurance Program comes out twice a year with new rate changes, and they're standard across the board, whether you go to me or you go to Joe Schmo's insurance agent. But they are not reviewing every one of these policies. So what happens is, say the surveyor did the elevation certificate incorrectly, maybe they put the wrong diagram number. Instead of saying it's a crawl space, they said it was a slab on grade, or whatever the case may be. Well, when the insurance agent goes to type that out on the elevation certificate, they may put that in incorrectly, like the surveyor said, because they don't really understand it, they're just copying right off it, and now that person's paying $3,000 when they shouldn't be. And I see that literally every day. So why we put that before premium is to make sure that they're paying what they should be. And then after that, we'll put an after premium to say, if you do these steps that we recommend, this is what you're going to go down to. So they get an exact return on investment, because these are all NFIP quotes. They get an exact return on investment right on that report, and it shows, is it worth it to do the mitigation?
Now, is flood vents usually number one on that list? Or I guess if we could step back one thing, because I know we've talked about it on previous shows, getting an elevation certificate is something that every homeowner should do as well.
I would love to talk about that too.
Okay. Let's talk about that, because we've had people come on before, and it was very interesting to Coleman and myself. And some homeowners, I don't know what the percentage is, don't even have the elevation.
It's a big percentage.
Right, and it's something that you should get.
Yes.
And that's kind of step one. And then maybe everything else that you're going to come up with in your evaluating process kind of falls below getting that. So kind of elaborate about a little bit about what the importance is, and how does one go about getting it, and the cost of it.
Yeah, sure. So the elevation certificate now is critical. Back 15, 20 years ago, FEMA would allow pre-firm rates, subsidized rates, which means, say the home was built, again, pre-70, they never had an elevation certificate done. Well, FEMA would say, all right, you have a basement, you're going to pay $1,200 a year, and that's going to be your rate. Well, what happened was, after Katrina, Sandy, and all these hurricanes, they saw really the NFIP went billions of dollars in debt, because a lot of these people that are pre-firm aren't paying what they should be based on the price of the home. So that would be, say, like, to relate it to driving insurance or auto insurance, having a ton of tickets and then still paying the same as someone who has no tickets.
It's weird that people understand auto insurance more than flood insurance.
I know. That's why I always
Flood
try
insurance,
to.
yeah, seems very complicated. I guess maybe everyone drives and not everyone lives.
That's true.
Right, but
Yeah.
no, it's a good analogy. I like that.
Yeah, and I always try using that just because, like you said, everybody gets auto insurance, but flood, it's like, oh, it's the government. I don't know. So the NFIB tried to make it just as much as an insurance program as everything else. But that subsidy that they were offering was kind of a pitfall on the insurance industry in general, as a whole. So they allowed these pre-firm subsidized rates, and then when the Biggert Waters Act came out, and ultimately the Homeowners Flood Insurance Affordability Act, they said no more subsidized rates, we're phasing them out. So any post-firm property can no longer get a flood insurance policy unless they have an elevation certificate. But if you're pre-firm, you still can still keep your subsidized rate, which a ton of people, like we said, that don't have elevation certificates, they're still paying that.
Right.
But what's happening now is they're increasing these rates 18 to 25% a year until they get their elevation certificate. And that's depending on the residency. So primary, secondary, commercial, they're all different increases, but it's still in between that 18 to 25% increase that they're going to see. And we've always been saying this since the Homeowners Flood Insurance Affordability Act came out in 2014. We've been preaching this to communities. Like I said, I do a lot of work with communities. But back then, a lot of people, because they didn't see it reflect on their flood insurance, they were like, why would I spend, say, $400 to $600 on an elevation?
That's about what it is. It's about
Yep.
500 on average, let's say.
Yeah, right between there. Yeah. And they were saying, why would I spend that when I'm paying $1,200 a year? It doesn't make sense. Well, now, since that Homeowners Flood Insurance Affordability Act, they've been increasing year over year, where now the subsidized rates are right around $1,900 to $2,200 a year. And it actually is worth it to get that elevation certificate because their actual risk rate could be cheaper. One of the big things I hear, Dan, is that a homeowner will say, what happens if it shows that I'm worse off? So say they have a basement and they're 6 feet below base flood elevation, worst case scenario. And I tell them, it's still good to get this elevation certificate. Because what's going to happen is you're going to keep increasing until you get that elevation certificate. So at least that elevation certificate is giving you a clear picture of what your flood insurance is going to rise to. You're not going to go jump right up to that, say, $6,000 mark that elevation certificate shows you. You keep that subsidy rate. So you'll keep that until you increase to that point.
So it doesn't do you any harm.
No harm.
Besides an initial $500.
That's the only harm.
Non-average investment. That's
Right.
the only harm.
Yep.
And odds are, I mean, it's not the worst case scenario. Odds are you can perhaps save money.
Exactly.
In the long run once you get
Exactly. And now I'm seeing, because it's in that $1,900 to $2,200 subsidy range, now I'm seeing, people that are like -1s fall right in that mark. But, luckily they got their EC, because if not, next year they would have gone up, say, $600, $700. And to get back to that whole subsidy thing, the elevation certificate is going to show what you should be paying. Like I said, your actual risk rate. It'll give you that clear picture. But it'll also give you time to see if there's any mitigation steps that you can do to your home. So maybe you see that your actual risk rate, again, worst case scenario, is $6,000 to $8,000 a year. Well, if you do these steps and spend, it's going to be a little tougher for that kind of case, but spend $4,000 to $5,000, then you're going to come down to, say, $1,200 a year. Well, now you have that 4-year time span to do that. And get that lower flood insurance premium, and more importantly, make your home more marketable. Because a lot of people do think of that too, that these flood insurance premiums are crushing market value for a lot of these homes in this area especially. And that's why it's important to get that EC to see what we can do to, one, make that home more resilient, but two, make that flood insurance premium affordable and make that house more marketable.
And what else? So you get your elevation certificate. You get your elevation certificate. You get your, let's say you get flood vents and you get, up to code there. What are some other recommendations? What are the common ones that you give a homeowner you know, that will help save the money and, you know, hopefully help protect their property too.
Yeah. So, a lot of our bigger steps, I guess you want to call it, and we have all these stats all on our website.
Okay.
We've broken down over 8,000 reviews the past 3 years. We save people over $8.4 million. But the biggest ones we see are 1, flood venting. 2, grade changes. So if they have, say, a subgrade crawl space where it's only 0.3, so 4 inches subgrade. So that means the subgrade crawl space is here and the outside ground level is here. Simply by filling it into that same space and then venting it, then exempts that space, and now you're rating them off the next higher floor, which is that living floor. So grade changes is a big thing, and it's not too expensive. We've recommended excavating the outside of one side of the home to bring it down to the same level as that inside. And then other than that, grade changes, vents, raising mechanicals is something that they can do that we would be able to show how much they would save off their flood insurance. And then we break it down into tougher cases where that's going to be a little tougher. You're not going to really see that return on investment, and that's going to be raising the home and different things like that. You know, full rebuilds and you know, getting into that kind of territory where we'd rather stay on the good cases.
What type of feedback do you get? I mean, is it mostly rewarding, thank you so much, I should have done this sooner? Is it kind of frustration? Is it confusion with this whole, I mean, because there is a lot of stuff that's in the National Flood Insurance Program and that.
Yeah.
You know, what type of feedback do you get from your customers and the people you do business with?
Yeah, and Dan, so I mean, you know, I'm in business, right, to be successful, but really, the most thing that gives me satisfaction in this job and with this company is just really being able to help people, making their home more resilient, saving money off their flood insurance. At first, I do a lot of work with communities to get back to that. And at first, you know, they're confused. They've gotten wrong information. There's a lot of that's out there with their insurance agent gave them, you know, something wrong, and then now they're jaded by that. So once we get to break that down with them and tell them what they exactly need to do, and show them a quote that, listen, if you do this, you can get this quote. This is a hard quote. You know, this isn't me just saying, hey, you'll save a lot of money off your flood insurance.
Right.
It's very rewarding. I mean, we've gotten cookies, like random stuff like that. We've gotten cookies and pictures of people that are so thankful. Every outreach that I do about 2 to 3 a month, where I go out to the town, I work with the certified floodplain manager, and we sit down with all their homeowners one-on-one and do these flood risk evaluator reports. And afterwards, just so much people that are thanking me, and like I said, it's very gratifying, and that's really one of the best things that I like about working for this company, Smart Vent and Risk Reduction Plus Group, is that I'm able to help people. After floods, I've gotten calls that they thanked me because they had smart vents and their foundation was protected. So just really a lot of great feedback, and like I said, that's really the most satisfying thing about working in this industry and working with this company specifically.
And do you think it's something that, you know, since Sandy and since it changed all these regulations and everything, is it something where the confusion has gone away, or is it something where it's still, I mean, your work is still cut out for you, and you run into, you know, confused homeowners or people who still don't quite understand the whole system?
The whole world, yeah. And now to get back to the whole New Jersey thing, like I said, New Jersey, we're top of the edge.
It always simplifies everything, right? Nothing's complex.
So New Jersey, we are doing great, but to get down to and that's from the code enforcement part, but to get down to the homeowners, it's really just getting in front of them. And I still run into a ton that are confused, and especially outside of New Jersey.
Right.
But in this state specifically, I still run into a ton of homeowners that have gotten wrong information and are jaded from that. And it's really, like I said, just being able to get in front of them, giving them the right information, and then giving them an answer in general. Because I hear a ton of people said, I went to my insurance agent, I asked them if there's anything I can do to save money off my flood insurance, and they told me, tough luck, it's FEMA. It's all regulated. And that drives me nuts, I'll tell you.
Well, I mean, people hear FEMA sometimes, too, and there's just a negative connotation.
Right, and that drives me crazy, because there is something that they can do. They can rebuild to resiliency. they can mitigate their homes, and it's not that expensive. Like when people think about mitigating their home, first thing they think about is lifting their home. They think it's going to be hundreds of thousands of dollars. But like I said, going back to something simple as flood venting, it could be a couple thousand, where now they're paying under $1,000 in their flood insurance. And like I said, they're making their home more marketable.
And how can people reach out to you and your company? And let's say we have a homeowner or business or any coastal resident. Feel free to give your
plug away.
Yeah, plug your contact information. I mean, so well spoken on it that I forgot to even turn my laptop on.
Don't worry about it.
And address comments, which
I kept going. I could talk forever.
No, and I think you're very well talking. You also simplify it because it is. I'm a meteorologist and a coastal resident, and I'm so confused by it. It's a very complex thing, and I think you make it very simple and understandable. So feel free. How can people reach out to you and your company, for information and perhaps for a quote?
Yeah, so sure. Really the best way is going on our website, www.smartvent.com. That's where you're going to find all our mitigation products, dry flood proofing. We do a lot of different types of mitigation work. And then on the insurance end, you're going to want to go to www.riskreductionplus.com.
Okay.
There you can reach out to me. All my info's on there, as well as all my staff. There's contact forms on there. Doesn't cost anything for a quote. Our whole flood risk evaluator program is on our Risk Reduction Plus website. And that FRE report, we call it FRE for simpler terms, but we like to call it free because it's a free report. So all you have to do is send in your information. I'll reach out to you for your elevation certificate. If you need one, I'll get you in contact with the surveyor that can do that for you. But really, the best place would be my website.
Okay. Tyler, thank you so much for coming, and I appreciate it. And
sure thing.
As a thank you, normally we gift wrap these.
Nice.
But excuse the plastic bag.
Oh man, look at that.
Club Atlantic City t-shirt.
Perfect.
They of course are open 24/7. You can come down here every Sunday at 7 o'clock. We are here for Tidal Flooding Talk. We always bring on a different guest, a well-spoken guest. Tyler, no one's more well-spoken than you. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Dan. Thank you so much for having me.
And again, you can reach out to Tyler on his websites. One more time again.
Yeah, www.riskreductionplus.com.
And www.smartvent.com.
There you go. Dan knows.
I know that.
I'm trained here.
And this is all brought to you by the New Jersey Coastal Coalition. You can reach out to us on our website, and of course these videos are archived on my Facebook page and Coastal Coalition website for information. YouTube and Twitter, Instagram, and all those platforms. 7 o'clock every Sunday. Palma will be back next Sunday. We'll have another guest for you. We hope Palma's enjoying Boston. Maybe we can convert it to a Patriots fan since she's up there.
Oh, God.
Probably not. Probably not. But thanks, guys, for tuning in. Appreciate you being here. Enjoy the nice summer weather.